We had 4 people in the partnership initially, and then we added one more person, and we lost a couple of other partners, and we had one more person. So right now we're settled at 4 partners. Hi, I'm Krish. I'm a part owner in this 1979 Grumman Tiger. Originally I'm from India. I came to this country back in 2003, and flying and aviation has always been my dreams of mine. And back in 2014, me along with 3 other partners bought this 1979 Grumman Tiger. This is a really cool airplane to fly, and I got most of my training from a Cessna 152 and a 172, and switching from Cessna to a Grumman is fairly easy, and this is the best, for me, is the best first airplane that one can buy, considering the price and the performance. So I was originally in Missouri. That's when I actually found out that you can actually get a private pilot's license, and it was not very expensive. So I had a little bit of money, honestly, at that time. So this was back in 2008 and 2009. I had about $5,000 to $6,000 of extra money, and I wanted to either buy a motorcycle or learn to fly. And I chose to go with learning to fly at that time. So I was back then I was in Texas. That's where I got my private pilot's license from. So I went to a flight school which was like 50 miles from where I lived, and because it was cheaper there, and I got my license. I think it took about 6 to 8 months. I took several breaks in between. So it took about 8 months to get my private pilot's license. So by the time I came out of the training, I had about close to 55 hours of training. So this was mostly in 172s. And after that, I had to move from Texas to Georgia because of the recession and the job change. So at the time, I started taking some more lessons towards instrument rating, and eventually I got my instrument rating back in 2014. That's when I met my partners, and we decided to buy this airplane. So like every other pilot out there, everybody wants to own an airplane. Everybody loves to have an airplane, but sometimes we think that buying an airplane is a really expensive thing, and there are options. For example, like I indicated earlier, so you can be in a partnership with few other people, and overall you split the cost and makes things a little easier and a little cheaper. So I was looking to buy an airplane at the time, and I was browsing through AOPA forums and other pilot forums, and so there was a guy who posted that he is also from Atlanta and interested in buying an airplane, and he already had a couple of other people that were interested. So I joined him. We formed this unofficial partnership with just me and 3 other guys, and we started looking at airplanes. And most of pretty much every one of us just finished their private pilot's license, have about 100 hours or so. So we were more or less in the same experience level, more or less in the same age group, more or less in the same interest level in terms of what airplanes that we wanted to buy. Of course, we started out looking at a 172, and we're looking at other airplanes, and one of the guys suggested Cirrus, but at the time it's just too expensive for the rest of us. And we were looking at airplanes that also has a bit of performance, and we ended up narrowing down to Grummans. So primarily we were looking at Grumman Tigers, the Grumman Tigers have 180 horsepower engine, so that gives better performance. So we narrowed down on the Grumman Tiger, and then we started looking at various places where we can buy a Tiger. So we looked at several places throughout the U.S. We looked at a Grumman Tiger in Colorado. We looked at Grumman Tiger in Tennessee, and finally we found a Grumman Tiger which was locally available for sale in Atlanta. So we found this airplane locally. It was actually the owner actually had the airplane hangared at McCollum Field, which is RYY. And so basically we made an offer to him. That's all we did. Once we made an offer, And once he accepted an offer, that's when we started the actual process of buying, which involved in opening a bank account and opening an escrow account and having a partnership document prepared, and having the pre-purchase and pre-buy inspection scheduled and various other things. The cost of the airplane, the agreed price of the airplane was $45,000, and of course we were willing to purchase it after the pre-buy, make sure everything is okay. I remember the pre-buy inspection had costed about $3,000, but we had a clause in our agreement between the previous owner and us, was to share some of the expenses between us. So he bared, I believe, the most of the cost of the pre-buy, because there are some squawks that needed to be fixed, and so we put down the rest of it. So we ended up basically paying close to $48,000 when we came out of the purchase. So for the purchase process, we put some money down, and we had to borrow the rest of the money from a bank, from a aircraft financing company. I believe we put 5% down each, and we borrowed the rest of the money from the aircraft financing. The process is pretty much like buying a house. You go through, one of us had to put the application with social security number and everything, and rest of them still had to provide our social security number and additional things and bank account information, some of the basic stuff. In addition to that, the lender did not necessarily have a specific requirement on the experience or the number of flying, the total experience level in terms of the flight hours, but the insurance company did. So they wanted each of the partners to have at least 1 hour of checkout in this airplane before we can actually be added on the insurance. So we use really basic Google Calendar for scheduling. So whoever wants to fly first, they can put it on the calendar, the time and date, and we don't have any real restriction as to how long you can take the airplane out. If you want to take the airplane out for a week or so, you just check with other partners, make sure they're okay with it. But we do have some clauses in the partnership agreement that you need to notify other partners if you are taking the airplane for an extended period of time. But most of the time, because of the different schedules that each partner follows, generally we didn't have any issues so far. I basically use this airplane as my personal recreational vehicle. That's what I use it for, and also for advanced training. I'm planning to get my commercial. I have a single engine license and instrument rating. I'm planning to get my commercial in this airplane, and also my instructor rating, CFI rating. So I don't know when it's going to happen, but that's at least my goals, my short-term goals with this airplane. So I take my family for flying. I have a 3-year-old daughter. I have a newborn. I am planning to take my kids in the future on trips, and we live in Atlanta, going to a beach, like for example somewhere in Florida, in central Florida, or Georgia coast. It's fairly easy to get into this airplane and beat all the traffic, and you can be there in Florida in less than 2.5 hours and be at the beach. You can leave in the morning after breakfast, you'd be there for lunch, and we have done it several times. It's a great family flying airplanes as long as your family is small. This airplane is a very cool airplane. Like I said, it's cool in the sense that it's kind of like a sports car, if you will. When you take Cessna 172 as a baseline, it's a stable flying airplane, but Grumman Tiger, on the other hand, it performs slightly better than a 172. We get around 130 to 135 knots of true airspeed, around 8,000 feet. At that airspeed, at that altitude, we're looking at burning like between 10 to 11 gallons. So it's fairly economical. The useful load is around 950 pounds. So basically you can actually take 4 adults. I have done that, and with limited fuel. The usable fuel is about 51 gallons, and you can limit. Sometimes we leave it at the tabs, which is 37 gallons of total fuel. So that will get you at least 2.5 hours of flight time plus reserve that is required with 4 full adults.